I'm seeing my dead sister. Posted by Hawkins818. When I was 4 years old, I watched my mom's husband murder my sister in front of me. I've always had paranormal experiences that involved her since I was 8 years old, but lately it's been more intense. About a year ago, I was in my living room watching Netflix and I hear someone crying. I couldn't understand why, and when I look over on the couch, I see a child whimpering like she's in pain. I immediately recognized her. She was wearing the same pink Minnie Mouse shirt and her hair was half up like our mom used to do. I thought I was seeing things. I got closer and tried to touch her, but when I did, she completely vanished. I told myself I'm just tired and sat back down on the couch. The second I sat back down, I heard her again and look over and see her covering her face, crying again. I did the same thing, tried to touch her, but she vanished again. I went straight to her room and just broke down crying. I told myself I was just seeing things and tried not to think much about it again. Fast forward, and I'm living with my boyfriend and our daughter who's 2 years old. We have woken up out of a dead sleep, hearing a little girl laugh right by our bed, but nothing was there, and our daughter was asleep in her room with the door closed. It freaked us out, but again, I just move on from it. The last few weeks when my daughter is in her room talking to herself and laughing like she's having a conversation with someone, and it got so bad, my boyfriend and I would go in just to make sure someone wasn't in the closet hiding in her room. Now, she's kissing and talking to my sister's urn, which is so odd because I've never talked to her about Ashley or humanized her urn to give her the idea to talk to it. What really freaked my boyfriend and I out, though, was she rubbed the urn and said, "It's okay, Ashy." Am I crazy or overthinking this entire thing? Has anyone else had a similar experience? I'm so confused. Evil presence at a sleepover. Posted by uncommon_carotid. This story takes place in 2017. It isn't a very eventful story as far as paranormal encounters go, but I personally find those to be the most believable. I actually created an account just to share this and have it all written down. My then best friend, I'll call her Lex, and I were having a sleepover at my dad's house. I was 16 at the time, her being 17. We often had sleepovers on Fridays where we would eat junk food, watch as much Netflix as possible, and have deep conversations. This night was no different, and so unremarkable that I've forgotten everything we did. That is, of course, until we were trying to fall asleep in my bed. I remember being completely exhausted, slowly but surely drifting off despite sharing a bed with someone. I was just on the brink of sleep when Lex got my attention. First, she simply asked if I was awake. I grunted in response, signaling her to continue. It should be said that I was quite literally a minute or two away from unconsciousness, so I didn't pick up on her tone of voice or think much of what she said next. "I'm going to use the bathroom downstairs," she told me, getting off the bed. This wasn't normal, her announcing that she would be slipping away to use the restroom, but I was too out of it to be annoyed or curious. Not long after she left, probably no more than 10 seconds, it started happening. Again, I was on the precipice of sleep, so my mind wasn't racing with thoughts or in any state to freak myself out. Nevertheless, I became filled with the feeling of impending danger out of absolutely nowhere. I was becoming very lucid very quickly as dread and anxiety overwhelmed me. I had never felt this kind of acute fear before, nor seemingly out of nowhere. Now, wide awake, I opened my eyes and stared at the wall less than a foot away from my face. As I slept facing away from the bedroom door, my heart raced as I tried to understand the situation. But I didn't move. Something told me that moving would be a very bad idea. My room was pitch black as well, so that didn't help matters. All I could think about was how scared I was and how I hoped Lex would return soon. I guessed that a few minutes passed like this when suddenly the bed dips on the side I am not occupying, as if someone was getting on it. Problem was, not only did Lex struggle to get on my bed due to its weight, but my bedroom door had never opened. At this point, I was petrified, and I only became more afraid as I felt something against the back of my body. It felt like a person, just gently pressed against me. I thought to myself hysterically that there was no way this was actually happening. I held my breath to better isolate the feeling, horrified to feel the presence moving as if it was breathing too, in and out, pressed against me, in and out. The atmosphere is still suffocating in the room, filled with what I can only describe as evilness. The aura of whatever was touching me screamed danger. Don't move. I will hurt you. My mind and heart are racing as I try to think of a way out of this. The only balm I have to lessen my anxiety is the fact I know Lex will eventually return. But what happens then? She wouldn't see whatever it was pressed against me when she entered the bedroom, too occupied with making sure she wasn't disturbing my sleep. So I told myself that once I heard the door open, I would address her and ask her to turn on the lights. After what I would come to find out was about a half hour, Lex finally did return. The second I heard the door open and light flooded into the bedroom, I called her name. She hesitated, her soft voice saying, "Yes?" I requested bluntly, "Turn on the lights." She did as I asked, and I shot like a bullet from my previous position, whipping around to inspect the area I felt the presence. There was nothing. I wouldn't notice right away, but later I realized that the horrifying aura that was plaguing my bedroom had vanished once Lex arrived. It was gone just as suddenly as it appeared. Still, I was in a state of horror for the next few hours. We watched some cartoons together and decided to sleep with the lights on, but not before talking about what just happened. Lex revealed to me that the reason she had gone downstairs wasn't to use the restroom, but to call her boyfriend for emotional support. She told me that she felt panicked, wanting to leave the room to escape from the stifling feeling. Lex couldn't get a hold of him and spent the next 30 minutes or so trying to calm herself down. In the morning, Lex and I would confide in my dad, the only other person in the house. He was rightly disturbed and told us that he had a nightmare that night. I can't remember what his nightmare consisted of, only that it was a really bad one. My dad is a veteran, so he's not easily spooked, but it left him uneasy. The fact my dad had a nightmare at all made this whole experience more notable to me. To wrap things up, I want to say that I had improperly used a spirit board a few years before this with a few of my friends at my dad's house. We were children, so we didn't take it any more seriously than another Halloween game. Nothing of this magnitude occurred before, though. Just this one night. Lex and I were able to acquire holy water from one of the teachers at our high school after she told him the story. We used it to cleanse my bedroom. Nothing strange has happened to me or my dad since. There's something weird going on with my 3-year-old. Posted by Untold Serenity XX. Today I was doing my regular shopping with my children, my 3-year-old and my 6-month-old. While shopping, my 3-year-old got a little wooden doll. It's a kind of old school style wooden block person. I haven't been able to get a photo as she won't put it down. She started calling it Daniel. That was no big deal. We had ordered Uber Eats for dinner, and then as I looked at the status, it says, "Your driver's name is Daniel." I brushed it off as a coincidence. I put a YouTube video on while I ate. It was just short stories. The first sentence of the first story was, "I don't want to go to Daniel's house." That's when things started feeling weird. She wanted to put this doll on the bathroom sink while we showered, and I told her no and to put it in her room. I showered her, and then she got dressed and instantly grabbed this doll again. I put her to bed, not noticing she still had it. A couple of minutes later, she starts yelling. I went in to ask her what was wrong and noticed she was holding this doll. I asked her who she was talking to, and she said Daniel. I asked her what they were talking about, and she said Daniel is scared. I asked her why he was scared, and she said because his family went into the water. She's never done anything like this before. I've felt like I'm being watched all the time since moving into this house just over a year ago. I have had it in the past, so never thought much of it until now. The last few nights I have felt like I'm going to see someone on my back deck when I go out to make my 6-month-old a bottle during the night. Obviously, there's never anybody there, However, a few nights ago, I swore I saw someone duck down inside my 3-year-old's playhouse out in the yard. There wasn't anybody there, as the window I see through was that low that I can see her head even when she's sitting inside it. I have no idea what is going on, but any advice would help. It could all be a coincidence, but I need a second opinion. Born Without a Veil Over Our Eyes. Posted by Linny29678. When I was really young, not even 10 yet, my grandmother would tell me that I and my father shared a common trait with his father, her husband. She told us that we were born without a veil over our eyes that allowed us to see the other side. There are so many occasions where my grandfather would tell us strange stories of spirits he had seen or times that were more than just coincidence. One that sticks in my head to this day was when my grandmother came to us and told me and my older sister, who was not yet 10, that he had told her a dream he had that night of fish and mirrors and water. She said that this meant one of my 3 sisters would not have children. Well, to this day, some 20 plus years later, my other 2 sisters both have 3 beautiful children, 2 boys and 1 girl each, and I sit here with a chihuahua that I dress in clothes. My father was also a police officer and told me stories of times when the veil was thin and he saw things that were unsettling. A pair of legs getting up from being hit by his patrol car, my mother without a face, and the most unsettling was when he was enlisted to break up a gathering of women out in the country around an abandoned property. He arrested 4 women covered in blood from slaughtered animals, and while in the holding cell, they began to claw at one of the woman's tongues, screaming it was the tail of her demon spawn she was carrying from her affair with the priest. It is a well-known story in my small town, and the only thing that scares me is no one knows who their priest was.